My name is Brian Flemming. I graduated from the Schulich School of Law in 1962, but long before that I decided that I wanted to be an international lawyer. There was only one course available, a half-year course at the law school when I came through, but in the 2 years following graduation I was lucky enough to be able to go to Europe and study public international law at the University of London and at the Hague Academy of International Law. One of the courses I took in London was International Law of the Sea, and I was lucky enough, even though I was registered at University College, not only to be able to take the course that was given by Professor Eddie Brown, but I was also able to go to the London School of Economics and take the course that was given by Professor David Johnson. The Law of the Sea in those days, in the 62 to 64 year period, was fairly controversial because, unfortunately, the second Law of the Sea conference, which had been held in 1958, had failed by one vote to restrict some of the claims that were being made to the continental shelves of the world and to coastal zones. When I returned to Halifax in the fall of 1964, I convinced the then Dean, Andy Mackay, to allow me to teach the first advanced course in international law ever taught at Dalhousie Law School. I thought about teaching law of the sea because, we're here beside the sea, but I decided to teach the law of international institutions, which was a more comprehensive course and covered the UN and its organs, plus secondarily the laws applying to the emerging European Union. I was overjoyed in 1967 when Ambassador Arvid Pardo of Malta convinced his colleagues at the United Nations to call a third United Nations Law of the Sea Conference, which was to begin in a few years after 1967. But between the calling of the conference and its eventual opening in Caracas in 1974, the United Nations created quite a number of prep-cons, as they call them, preparatory committees, to begin to do the very complicated lead-up work to the conference. In 1969, mirabile dictu, the then Minister of the Environment, the Honorable Jack Davis, who was, I think, Canada's first Minister of the Environment, decided that he had to have some capacity in preparation for an environmental conference in Stockholm in either 1969 or 70. He decided he needed some capacity in international law. So he appointed an advisory committee on marine and environmental conferences. He made Dean Maxwell Cohen of McGill Law School the chairman. Douglas Johnston, who eventually came to Dalhousie Law School a couple of years after he was appointed. Dona Farrand, who was a professor of international law at the University of Ottawa and a Dalhousie Law graduate, and myself. I think the reason why I was chosen to sit on the committee was not only because I was teaching and writing articles about international law, but in the late 60s, early 70s, I was doing a considerable amount of broadcasting, mostly on CBC television, about issues relating to the law of the sea, like the Northwest Passage, the transit of the Manhattan through the passage in 1970 and what that meant, and quite a number of broadcasts on the overfishing that was then going on off the east coast of North America and Canada in particular. In 1970, in early 1970, I was appointed to the Canada Council by the Government of Canada, which was an extraordinary opportunity because the Canada Council not only covered the arts in those days, but prior to 1977, when the Council was split, it also included social sciences and humanities. Every year the Council would go to an out-of-town location, and people there at either a university or at some arts organization would put on a show for us. In the fall of 1970, the first time I went on one of these trips, we went to the University of Saskatchewan. I was amazed when I got there. I'd never been to Saskatchewan before, and I was amazed at how much work was being done at the university in the area of agriculture, which of course was important to the hinterland around the university, and it began to dawn on me that maybe Halifax was missing out by not taking a similar track with respect to the oceans. Dr. Henry Hicks, who was then the president of Dal, didn't like the idea very much when I first presented it to him of beginning to build our capacity here at Dalhousie in ocean studies, whether scientific, policy-related, or law-related. I told him at one point that the problem with Dalhousie was you could come in blindfolded and have your blindfold removed, and it would be very difficult to tell where you were because there was nothing being taught at Dalhousie in those days that really related as much as it should have to the oceans. Finally, after pushing both at the law school and at the university level, by 1973-4, the university and the law school had decided to create DOSP, or the Dal Ocean Studies Program. By that time, Ronald McDonald was the dean of the law school, Douglas Johnson was here, Edgar Gold was here, I was here, and some other people were available, like Art Hansen, who was teaching environmental studies on the main campus. So we were able to put together a program for the first time that really focused on law and policy relating to the oceans. But we didn't have much money. Fortunately, because of my connection with the Canada Council, the Council had just begun to create a number of centers of excellence across the country and to give each of them $1 million, which would be the equivalent of $5 or $6, $7 million today, in order to create these centers. Dalhousie decided that it should have 2 centers, something that was very unusual because there was only supposed to be 1 center per university across the country, and every university would not get one. Dalhousie got one on international development in the economics department, but again, mirabile dictu, we were able to get the Canada Council to give a $1 million grant to the law school for the Dal Ocean Studies program, and things really took off after that period. The then director of the Canada Council in 1976-7, when the law school got the money for the Ocean Studies program, was Andre Fortier, who I was very happy when the university granted him an honorary degree sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. I won't try to enumerate today all the many successes that have taken place over the last 40 years in ocean studies at the law school. There are others who will be better able to tell the full story of that. But I will just say this, and I've traveled around the world a lot in my lifetime and a lot lately, including to Europe, South America, Asia, United States, and the one thing that has happened in the 40 intervening years since DOSP began is that Dalhousie Law School has acquired a reputation that is second to none for ocean studies around the world. It has assembled some of the best scholars anywhere in order to teach and research in the ocean studies area, and it's been a delight to watch it over the years, and I say to the law school, Excelsior. Let's move on and move up in an ever better way. Thank you.